kind of a crowd control tool. It's not only going to be a crowd control tool, but think about all the int you're going to steal if you get it on multiple heroes. I mean, it's got a lot of benefits to it, and your team can kind of get in position afterwards. You have that extra reach because it's a big AOE. So all around, I think a really nice change for this item.
Yeah, big setup for Enigma, especially too. So there, like you said, the damage that you're getting out of it, there's a lot that comes out of it. This might be one of the more luxurious Aghanim Scepters, but
Yeah.
at the same time, this is a hero that really doesn't add crowd controls to the fact that you get some dimension of it. There I'm sure going to be situations where it looks attractive.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to drop all the way down. Oh wait, you did want to talk about Puck, didn't you?
All I wanted to say about Puck was that basically the Waning Rift damage was increased by a little bit in the first ranks, actually 30 at the first rank and 20 at the second. So it's just making that spell a little more useful in the early parts of the game. You're obviously getting the orb for a lot of your ranks, but it kind of allows that combo to be that much deadlier, especially in that level 8 and below ranks. You're able to combo people that much easier and get kills that much easier to kind of snowball. So I think that was a nice little buff for him. That's all.
Yeah, Pugna gets a bunch of buffs, which is kind of cool. Decrepify, the slow goes from 50 up to 60%, starting at 30 up to 60 at the last rank. The enemy damage amplification goes from 30 up to 60, but the duration goes from being 2 up to 3.5 to just being 3.5, which I actually think is a pretty big buff. Mm-hmm. And that the fact that you're actually going to be able to dependably hit people with your Pugna blasts.
Nether blasts, yeah.
Yes. Oh, and Life Drain and stuff. Decrepify cooldown.
Cast other spells.
Yeah, the Decrepify cooldown is actually increased at rank 1. Still goes down to 6. Damage, drain, and restore per second. So there are also some other changes, but I feel like that's the big one that really gives him some presence earlier on, which I appreciate. The only other one that I feel like is like super huge is the cast range on Life Drain goes from 1100 to 900 up to 1200, and then Aghanim's no longer increases the cast range. So a great example of the balancing act they're trying to do all at once to make a hero more relevant for a certain type of game, but then also not let him get out of control.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's nice. And like you said, I think that the Decrep, while it's going to be a lesser amplification, at least you're going to have a bigger window to actually get that hit on them, as well as your teammates as well. So yeah, it's a pretty nice little change there. They didn't touch the Nether Ward or anything, but I think that was still a nice direction to go. Ricky, the smokescreen no longer slows attack speed. However, it reduces turn rate by 30%. So kind of interesting if you're getting ganked by him and you're trying to turn around and run away. It's going to be more difficult. I think since it's already giving that mischance, is the attack speed slow even a thing? I don't know.
No, but I do think this is pretty huge. The counter to Ricky is Force Staff, period. So now that you are reducing turn rate, if you catch people, trying to be aggressive, they go to turn to run, it's going to take them more time. So they can't just immediately get Force Staffed out. So there is a little bit more time that's going to take, a little bit more opportunity for your team to maybe stun that person, keep them in the cloud. So I think that is actually a big push for Ricky to push him into a competitive role.
Okay. Rubik, his null field now affects creeps, but I think the other thing you should really note here about Rubik is that all these people are getting these Ognim's upgrades, so an Ognim's on him too does a lot more, in my opinion. So, I don't know, it just kind of makes him maybe that much stronger of a pick, possibly.
If you have Aghanims and you steal Alchemists, you just get to use your Aghanims on somebody else, I guess. That's kind of interesting.
Weird. But remember, you were talking about
sloppy seconds on an Aghanim Scepter.
No, you were talking about the Nyx Assassin stealing that. That interaction is if you burrow and then you lose the duration of the spell, you are actually permanently burrowed right now. So maybe they'll make a change to that where you can just move at that point or something. If not, then I would suggest not burrowing when it's about to run out. Sand King, this is one I was pissed about earlier. Guess what's
T-dubs.
still an orb effect?
Well, okay, but it's pretty good, right?
Guess what's still an orb effect?
Really quick, I feel like the Rubik thing is huge, by the way.
Okay, go ahead.
But no, I mean, it's not complicated. I just think that that's a pretty freaking huge.
Yeah, you're pushing in.
Buff.
People are using their spells to clear the creep waves. Well, now it's going to do less damage. So I definitely agree with that. But it cost a finale. Okay, it did get buffed, but still an orb effect, so J4Y still hates it. The duration is from 8 to 6, so it's less. It now always triggers via unit death or when its duration expires. If triggered by timer expiration, it deals 30% of the damage, so a lot less. The cost of finale no longer resets the duration on a unit that already has the debuff because it is going to just trigger. And it now applies a 20% move slow when the damage triggers via unit death or when time expires. Slow lasts for 3 seconds, so it gives him a little bit of a slow after the injection, which is actually why maybe the duration getting reduced is almost a good thing for this hero, because you don't want to wait the full 8 seconds to get that slow on the target possibly. It's only going to be 6, and I do like how it's just going to trigger, period. So it's just it's a definitely a nice change for the ability.
Yeah, and it's going to make me drop down too to just talk about Silencer, because I feel like is a similar thing there where actually Last Word now applies a movement speed slow when it triggers, as opposed to what it used to do before, which was the disarm. And sort of similarly, like, yeah, you're going to burrow strike, you're going to attack, but then you have to wait 6 seconds for your slow to kick in.
Yeah.
So in a similar vein, Silencer, Sand King, they kind of need somebody else there to help set up the rest of their crowd control. I think that's really interesting. It's not really something that we've seen out of a lot of other people. I guess maybe you could say Alchemist previously. But really needing somebody to give you time to ramp up your crowd control abilities is an interesting thought. The Cosmic Finale thing is pretty cool too. I mean, just the fact that you get to be, a sort of more, I don't know if I want to say more, yeah, I guess a more reliable farming mechanism and a better way to sort of push and harass.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that after 6 seconds it's at least going to do its 30% of its damage, so a third of 220 if you max out that rank. It's about 80 to 90 damage, so not a substantial amount by any means, but it's extra damage that he wasn't doing before. So, it is that little bit extra that could help this hero out. So, they're trying to figure it out. I tell you, if they just make it non-orb effect, I can finally go my Desolator, but until that day is upon us. You did skip the Shadow Demon, but I just wanted to say that the Ogden's Scepter upgrade now applies Break, which I think is really important to note, because now that the Hexing does not, this makes this Ogden's really valuable, even more valuable than just having extra charge. Now you also are going to disable those passives, and so for example, Shadow Demon against Bristleback, for example. Now with the Ogden's upgrade, he's going to be slow, and he's not going to have that protection. So he's going to basically have this big target on his back and be a lot easier to take out. So I think that was actually a really interesting, small yet big buff for that item.
Yeah, one of these supports that has fallen out of grace, but is still pretty viable.
Oh yeah,
this extra little pushback I think is really nice. I mean, the break mute thing, and the hex interaction is something I think you can sort of skim over and not really appreciate if you're just reading through the changelog, but it is something. I'm glad that you jump back to it, because it is an interesting change. Again, it's like where are you getting this gold from? Maybe it's from the kills. I mean, Shadow Demon is a kill-oriented hero. I feel like a lot of these are. Same with the Sand King. He is maybe not necessarily at his early levels because of the short range on Burrow Strike, but he is about getting into a fight, doing a lot of damage, and help making things happen. And a lot of these types of heroes are the ones that are coming up now, which makes me really excited to see what the game looks like once this patch hits.
You also saw where he's getting the gold from. Well, with their rearrangement of gold from hero kills, if you are on the lower end, you'll gain even more bonus gold from that kill. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that. We should keep trying to skip around a little bit. I think the sniper, we probably need to talk about that hero. Maybe? You think he's relevant?
No, not really. Sniper agility gain reduced. Shrapnel recharge time increased. The delay has been increased from zero point 0.8 to 1.4 for shrapnel actually coming down. It now gives vision when the shrapnel lands rather than instantly. Headshot can miss.
Yeah.
I mean, these are really, and then assassinate, the damage actually winds up getting reduced. So it's now defending high ground against sniper, more reasonable. He takes a little bit longer to come online. He can't see you in the trees instantly. You get a little bit more time to run out of shrapnel. I feel like this is all fine and dandy. And you know, on top of this, again, we're talking about a meta. It looks to be coming out of this patch of aggression. Heroes like your Centaur, your Sand King, these close the distance heroes that are about trying to generate kills, and that is, I feel like, not a conducive environment for a sniper in the first place. So this stuff on top of it, to a question that Erica dropped us, I mean, I don't really see how he could survive being a staple for sure. You know, this might just kill him. I don't know.
This definitely might have. I mean, for I keep going back to letters. Headshot can now miss. I mean, I think that's a pretty big one off the bat. That made him really effective against certain heroes. Also, making basically MKB not even an item he had to worry about very frequently. But now it's like, okay, now it actually has that chance. The giving the vision when it lands or instantly, I think, is a huge nerf to him, because that basically let him and his allies be able to chase after heroes with purely vision alone when he was just shooting off those charges. I remember when I was talking about, I think we discussed, like, how can we nerf him? How can we change him? I was talking about mana increase because it's so cheap. And obviously they took a different approach, but I like their approach better than the mana increase. I think giving that delay too and the recharge time, I mean, it's basically making shrapnel not nearly as strong as it once was. It's still good. It's still better than it was originally, let's be honest, but it does have its downer sides. It's got it is worse than it once was, and I think you're right. If the meta truly does go the way we're predicting here, then yeah, it's going to definitely not be a conducive environment, and I think he will maybe see his way gracefully out of this meta.
Yeah. Spectre reality no longer kills the target illusion.
I love this.
It now swaps. Well, then why don't you marry it and then tell me about it?
How about it getting married in 2 weeks? Yeah, but
just rub your happiness in, Jay.
Rub it good. Yeah, but reality no longer kills the illusion. It swaps. I think this is great. You know, like when you do that, obviously when you go in, someone's like, oh, he's gone. You got to look out for him. But now that it swaps, it's not obvious until the attacks land on these other illusions or these other, the illusions of him. So while not a huge change, it's definitely a nice quality of life for him, for sure.
Absolutely. And Storm Spirit receives some nerfs. Movement speed, probably and Ball Lightning flying vision reduction.
That was a huge nerf.
Yeah, 1,000 to 400.
I mean, obviously, if he's doing his jump from the fountain to the enemy's lane, that doesn't matter. But, you know, if you are trying to jump around the middle or the river or do some kind of fancy footwork, it is going to impact you greatly. So, not enough to take the hero out, in my opinion. I think he's still going to stick around. But definitely some good nerfs to him.
This one I find deceptively interesting. Warcry armor bonus increased from 4 up to 16 to 5 up to 20. Keep in mind that Shiva's Guard provides 15, so already providing more. And this low cooldown ability, kind of the like discussion breakpoints of Sven previously when he was popular. Now we're talking about going up to 20. So really far ahead of a major item choice. I hate to keep saying it, but I really am excited about where this is going, because I think this is literally like CIS Dota returns.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, this is just another example. Just that massive armor bonus, just imagine that behind an army of creeps. So,
with Rubik there.
Yeah.
They're
now,
invincible.
We should probably just, like, get Joe, Striker OD, into the call for 1 second, just so we can hear his vinegar stroke noises. Yeah. You can read, because I'm tired.
I'm tired. Don't worry, you still got items to go.
Yeah, we do.
We'll take a small break after. But landmine activation delay reduced from 1.75 down to 0.5, a big reduction in that activation delay. Stasis trap activation and detonation delays reduced from 2 to 1.5. The Suicide Squad attack cooldown reduced by a decent amount, actually, going from 180 to 150 down to 160 to 100. That's a big chunk, 50 seconds off the last rank. The Minefield sign cooldown increased from 120 to 360. Everyone's like, huh? Hold on to your seats. Now requires techies to walk precisely to the targeted spot. The Minefield side now has an area of effect target cursor, and it now has a limited lifetime of 180 seconds. But why, BDLM? Why all those things for just a sign? Isn't it cosmetic?
Well, it's probably because Techie's Aghanim Scepter upgrade now causes the minefield sign to make all the land mines, stasis traps, remote mines with 125 area of effect immune to true sight.
God, I hope no one heard what you just said.
I'm going insane here. You can only have one sign out at a time, so sorry, Refresher Orb.
Damn it!
You can't just completely wall off your base with permanently invisible mines. Here's the real... It's like, you know how we had the joke scare factor of the old minefield sign? This is the real fear factor with the sign. Because Aghanim Scepter is a totally reasonable, viable, and common item on techies, so that's pretty major. And this enter a new game mechanic where you are actually permanently invisible to everything. Pretty. I mean, I hate it personally because I don't ever want to play against the techies, even when I can see their minds with detection. But I can just see Joe now just doing a little dance, doing a little happy dance due to this
Here's the
change.
beautiful thing about this. There's literally a sign. So it's like, it's in a way...
It's not beautiful. It's just awful because you know you're going to be,
like,
oh, you know what?
We can't push high ground because there's a sign there. And that means there's remote mines there. And that means I'm scared. Now, of course, if there were just landmines, you could just walk one of your newly spawned treants and, take them out. Stasis, same thing. But the remotes, you can't do anything about. And you're just going to have to kind of suck that up and do some weird kind of siege. So while I think I like the aspect of that the sign is like pointing out where it exactly is, in the same token, there's nothing you can do about it, like you said. You really just have to kind of approach that siege a whole different way, or you just suffer the consequences of getting remote mined. So...
Or is he trolling you completely? It's
The thing with that, though, is that now that's a 360-second cooldown, he's not going to use it very often, I have to think.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It's true he could be faking you out, but that is a long time, which I guess is the only saving grace, is that it's a 360-second cooldown. I mean, that's 6 minutes, right? So, if you see that sign at the tier 3 in middle, you're like, guys, we're pushing top lane, or guys, we're pushing bottom lane, because he needs another 6 minutes to make those things permanently invisible. So that's kind of, I think, the approach people have to take to it. But I really think the landmine and stasis trap activations and detonations getting reduced is also really important for this hero, because it can be kind of avoidable, 1.75 seconds or 2 seconds. But when you shave off that time, it's a lot easier for him to kind of land that damage. So definitely some really nice buffs for this hero. And is he coming back into the meta this round?
Shut your mouth. Moving on. I don't know. I mean, that is certainly a lot of help. Joe is screaming, yes, yes, God, yes. And the Suicide Squad attack reduction down to 100 seconds is pretty dramatic. I mean, shaving 50 seconds off of that. So, I'm sure we're going to see more of them whether we want to or not. Hopefully you get a good one, and hopefully he's on your team, because I definitely am not looking forward to having to deal with this guy.
Which, if I just don't play DoD at all, I don't have to deal with him. So
that is an option, but it's a strategy.
Terrorblade, so his reflection cast range was increased a little bit, and his illusion outgoing damage was increased from 40-70 to 40-100. So I just thought this was kind of interesting. He's obviously fallen off the face of the earth as a carry pick ever since his nerfs, but he does now late game get 30% more damage from his illusions, which I feel like is a pretty substantial amount. So while they do less damage to the buildings, as we kind of talked about earlier, they still are pretty strong, and I don't know. I just think it was a nice little bit of a buff for that guy. Skip Tide Hunter, just a little bit of crack control damage blocking increase. Timbersaw, we already talked about his reactive armor. It got also more max stacks. Tinker, so the laser blind duration increased from 3 to 4.5 scaling. The rearm mana cost was reduced, which was interesting, by 25 at all ranks. A little bit of help there. The Ognim Scepter laser no longer has additional cast range, but now refracts to visible enemy heroes with a 550 bounce range. So we got Bounty Hunter, Shriek and Toss going. We got the laser bouncing. I mean, what more could you ask for here?
Refract is an interesting choice of words because I wonder what the arc is that is a viable, choice of selection for a target. 550 is pretty decent. It's not outrageous, but of course, when you can be rearming and everything, it's pretty crazy. I mean, okay.
Well, refracted would split, right? So if you hit that hero and he has 4 heroes around him in a circle, it would hit all of them, wouldn't it?
Refraction is just when it passes into a different medium, it changes angle, right?
I am not a wizard.
Physics of light class. Thank you for paying off. Real world applications.
Dear God. There's no economics in that sentence, so I don't care. Tiny, we talked about earlier, is now going to grab the closest unit for toss rather than a random unit. Thank God. I'm so happy about that as well. The pseudo random taken out of that. Tree and Protector, the Eisen Force area effect reduced from 800 to 700, so obviously he's been picked up a decent amount. Getting that Oghanims, I mean, you think that was a decent little nerf there?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I still like his Oghanims. I still think it's cool. He has to work a little bit harder for it, so that's fine.
Torlord, we got to talk about, obviously. Berserker's Rage no longer provides plus 15 damage. The ranged and melee whirling axes no longer provide their extra vision. Battle Trance duration reduced from 7 to 5 seconds, and Berserker's Rage is no longer removed on death. Oh, we already discussed that earlier. So, obviously, nerfing the vision, lowering the duration of Battle Trance, and no longer giving damage to Berserker's Rage. Is this enough to do something about taking him out of this meta?
Helps a lot. I always liked trying to argue for ranged whirling axes level 1 just for some kill potential with a little help from your friends. But the plus 15 damage is pretty huge to just help you last it and ensure that you're getting off to a great start. Mm-hmm. So, I think of the heroes that have been... I mean, it's really been him and Sniper. I feel like they have gotten pretty big changes through this. Pretty big goal. Beating a dead horse at this point, but I think it's more than just what's happening to these heroes. It's also all the other changes that are happening. And, I think he still has the potential to be relevant, but I think we'll certainly be seeing a lot less of him.
Yeah, but I definitely think he's still around just until maybe teams figure out some other kind of way. But
base damage of 35, 17 to 35. Just saying.
Really?
Wait.
That is pretty weak. Are you sure?
Okay, 38 to 55.
Wow, you're very wrong.
With stats.
I was going to say, that's pretty
well, you know what I mean?
Thanks, buddy.
Regardless, so fairly not high, not exceptional. Now that the 15's missing,
a little harder to lane, I guess. We got to talk about this, the most important hero, I guess. Tusk.
Of course.
So he had a lot of changes. Ice Shards got a little buff from cooldown, whatever, vision revealing. Snowball speed is now a constant 675, which I find interesting. It no longer autoloads units in 100 range. He can now add allies to Snowball while it's moving. But really, once again, Oghanims, who would have thought? A really cool one. Adds a new ability called Walrus Kick. Kicks the target back 900 units. The kick slows by 40% for 4 seconds, and it's a 12-second cooldown. This is an amazing upgrade for this hero, and I think actually a really strong pickup for him. This hero, I remember I played a lot of those Tusk games, if you can recall, all the way back then, and I complained the whole time, but I did
not necessarily in a row, but they occurred.
Thank you. They occurred. That's what matters most. 25 to be exact. And so I had to decide what I usually played him in either a safe lane or mid role. And, Shadow Blade seemed pretty common, but I'm like, what else? Desolator, I guess. I don't know. What the heck do you go on this hero, right? Like, it didn't quite make sense every time. I think this Oghanims is viable in any game on this hero. You know, it's giving you this unique way to displace someone. We've talked about displacement in a lot of episodes, but I think displacement is one of the most important things you can have in a team fight. Because if you can alter where the enemy is, it can really either put them in a really bad place or, you know, affect the outcome of the fight just purely on that notion. 900 units is a pretty substantial. It's definitely farther than a force staff push. So I just think it's a nice little ability there. 12 seconds is not very long cooldown either, so using that with your Walrus Punch as well, pretty frequently, you can kind of combo people that much better. I just really like this addition to him, and I think it's going to really help him in any role he plays, to be honest.
The great thing about Tusk, too, is that, you know, aside from the sigil, everything is on a really short cooldown. 12 seconds ice shards. We're looking at a cooldown of 18 seconds on the snowball. The ultimate on a 12-second cooldown, rank 3. Again, this is another like high octane fighty ability on a short cooldown, and like you said, it allows you to sort of reposition the enemy, put them in a bad spot, and you know you can totally just see Tusk even going for like a blink dagger, blinking behind somebody, kicking them back, rolling into them. You know, there are a lot of different ways that you can make these abilities work together, and even if you have to run up, punch somebody up in the air, and just run around the other side and kick them back, I mean that works as well. Mm-hmm. So I think there's this hero I feel like has gotten some really weird changes, some interesting changes. He's popped up here and there. I really would like to see him kind of make himself a name as a reasonable hero with these changes.
Agreed. So. We're gonna keep speeding. This is speed mode, baby.
This is speeding.
No, we're gonna start speeding. That was not even speeding.
I feel like we're doing the opposite of speed, where it's like if we go over 55 miles an hour, the world will explode.
All right, you
want
me to
go
go quick?
Not that we have a choice, because these are really great changes.
I'm so sorry. You can blame everything on me, because I thought we were like gonna get through the other ones quick. Mm-hmm. We should have taken that break when you told me to. Mm-hmm. So a deep apology. But if we took a break now, it'd be not worth it. So now you have to power through.
Undying Soul Rip is now considered 1 damage instance on the enemy. Remove Tombstone Zombie targeting from Soul Rip. Tombstone Zombies now require 1 attack to kill rather than 30 health. Zombies require 2 hits from creeps. I feel like this is actually kind of dramatic, and I'm not really sure why. So since we saw Undying, I'm going to say, not that I'm watching every single game that's ever happened, but I didn't really start noticing Undying until a couple weeks ago. The fact that you go from that to he's all of a sudden nerfed pretty hard into the ground, I think is kind of, I don't know, dramatic. I want to say Soul Rip means that he can't just sort of truck Templar Assassin. I guess that's fair. But Tombstone Zombies not being targeted from Soul Rip sounds
that's weird.
Kind of
bad.
I'm trying to find a really fancy word, and I want to say grotesque, but it just seems so overkill. I kind of feel like that is the whole point of the hero, is to have that synergy. And that's not the whole point of the hero, but I think that's really an interesting synergy thing on the hero.
Yeah.
So even if it was like reduced, or if it killed the zombies, that might still be considered bad. But I don't know. And 1 attack to kill is kind of
That's fine. They're pretty much 1 hit to kill anyways. So
hey man,
30 health is not a whole lot.
You're Crystal Maiden.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Techies just gets mauled by zombies.
Not anymore. Good to go. Yeah, also bad against TA now, right? Only 1 damage instance, but right. Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. I think he still served the same purpose though, just a little bit worse, I guess. Ursa reworked in Rage, so previously was just extra damage for a while based on health, yada yada. Now he goes into a frenzy, causing him to take 80% less damage from any source, and for his attacks to deal 2 to 3 times the Fury Swipe's damage. It also removes any existing debuffs upon cast. The duration's for 4 seconds. The cooldown's from 50 to 40. So really just changing what Enrage is all about. Before you just kind of always had it on, and you were just kind of going through, hitting people, killing people. It wasn't really special in any way. Now it actually, it has this long cooldown, longer, I should say, and it gives you that 80% less damage. So when you jump in, you pop that. People try to focus you down. It's going to be a lot harder, and it's can be worth holding on to for certain parts of fights. So it makes it a lot more unique, I guess.
I think this is freaking amazing. Let's remember that about a year ago, our young Swede, Zai, probably not Swede, and I'm probably gonna get flamed. Young Zai decides to play a 4 or so, and is actually able to do a tremendous job with it. And I think, not saying that this has anything to do with support. I'm just saying that there is, I feel like, a lot of potential for this hero already, and then to take something that just gives you bonus damage to make it a dispel debuffs and take 80% less damage for 4 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Ignore the Fury Swipe multiplier thing. I mean, that is, I think, in and of itself, just ridiculous. I mean, if he wasn't soloing Roshan before, I'm really curious to see how this translates, because I feel like this could be a lot of potential. I think there's a lot here for Ursa to show up, because Dispel, damage reduction, bonus damage. What else do you want out of this hero? I'm not really sure.
Exactly. No, it's just going to synergize with this kit that much better. So we'll see how it plays out, though. I like the concept of it. Let's skip down a couple more. Visage, Gravekeeper Cloak recharged from 6 to 4. Familiars no longer have 300 through 600 health, but instead require 4 hero attacks to be killed. Creeps illusions do 1/4 the damage. Towers do 1/2. I think this is. I don't know if it's a buff. I want to say a buff at first, but yet I don't actually know that it is. How do you feel about that familiar change?
I must feel like it is a buff, and I really don't know why. I mean, I guess because he's just kind of in that camp of, being part of a gimmick with Drow, which I don't like. I really dislike it when heroes are just picked off a gimmick, which is why I like those Beastmaster changes so much. He's so much made to be about just having hawks for people to bots to.
Yeah.
That I really do appreciate him being appreciated for more than just that ability. So, 4 hero attacks. If you go to creeps or illusions, they count as a 4th. Towers count as a 1/2. So I feel like it is a buff, even though I feel like that's a buff to the more obnoxious part of Visage. I guess his cornerstone ability, but still kind of obnoxious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it depends on the levels and everything else. 600 health for each one. I don't know. It's definitely a toss-up. I guess we'll see. I think it's not like so dramatically different that they'll, if you set up your team right in the right spot, you're going to kill them either way. But it definitely might be a buffed one. We'll see how that plays out. Weaver, I think we have to mention for a few reasons. The duration, so Swarm was rescaled 14 to 20, just 16 all ranks. The damage, instead of 15 to 30, is just 28 all ranks. The Swarm attack rate was actually rescaled from attack every 1.35. Now it's 1.4 down to 0.95, so more frequent as you leveled up. The Gemini attack I thought was pretty cool. Now launches the second projectile 0.25 seconds after the initial one fires instead of after impacting the target. So sometimes you'd see a target like just waiting. You're like, am I going to get that second attack off? I have no idea. I have to wait an hour for that first one to ever get to the stupid target. So now it's just going to launch it, period. And that's going to be really beneficial for you. So Gemini attack also no longer has a range limit. So even if they TP out, that second shot's still going to find them and go for them. And then, of course, the Ogden Sept upgrade. Because what would this patch be without another Ogden Sept upgrade? Reduces the cooldown of time-lapse down to 20 seconds and allows time-lapse to target allied heroes with 1,000 cast range. So support Weaver is ink. No, I'm just kidding. But for real, though, even getting this on Offlane Weaver is still amazing. Just having the ability to someone on your team getting heavily focus fired and being able to just time lapse them to get them started all over again. I mean, I don't know. I see this item definitely getting picked up.
I see a lot of these items, like now that we're talking through them, I never really thought of it before, but really is you're swapping out one of your other defensive items, and
right.
While you might be losing So, okay, let's take Lincoln Sphere. You're losing the block. You're losing the regeneration, which you obviously want as Weaver because you're casting
Right.
spells all the freaking time. But really, as far as the raw health, raw mana, you're probably maybe even up off the Aghanim Scepter. I haven't crunched the numbers. But when you consider that that amount of utility comes out, you really you can look at Weaver as a hero that provides utility, but then also can still be a decent source of damage. So obviously quite different, but I'm thinking of like Faceless, where you think of an offlaner that can do damage and then provide you team fight capabilities. And I think too, this is also raising the skill cap on Weaver, because you kind of do have to have a more global appreciation for what's going on with your team and your teammates to know, is it really worth me time lapsing you? Is it worth it for me to use it on you to maybe give you health back? Wait, where were you positioned? So, if there are good Weavers out there, they're going to be able to take advantage of this and maybe pick up like a medallion or something to try to offset the loss of mana regeneration. I think you're going to be a happy camper, and I think your team will be too.
No, absolutely. Down to 20 seconds is so short. So, I mean, you definitely will get a couple of those off in a fight if there's good opportunities for it. So, that will be interesting to see if that gets picked up as well. I believe it's like a one Weaver, like one roll. I'm not sure you'll see it necessarily, but definitely like an offlane or something else. I could definitely foresee that getting picked up. Kind of like a Morphling discussion, if you will. But it's definitely an interesting take on it. Winter Wyvern is now in Captain's mode.
And the people rejoiced.
That's a pretty big deal. Nice support to add to the list. They did rework Winter's Curse, so now those are cursed to attack their ally now take 70% less damage from all sources. The AoE increased 350 to 400. The duration increased a little bit in those last two ranks, and the cooldown increased by 20 seconds at all ranks. I might as well just go through all the changes real quick. Arctic Burn is now spellable. The damage per second increased from 6% to 8%, but now instead of pure, it's magic damage. So kind of negate that percent I just said. No longer pierces spell immunity. The Splinter Blast speed increased from 500 to 650, but the debuff is now dispellable, and Cold Embrace, that heal you have on him, now has his normal regeneration instead of 0.1 interval. How do you like him? Think he's going to get put in teams?
I think a really cool hero. I still think, I would say most of these are nerfs. I guess maybe obviously.
Yes.
But this hero is crazy strong, and I think bringing it down is fine. That ultimate is still the bread and butter of the hero, and it's still very powerful. Even if the other targets are taking reduced damage, okay, well then you just pick the target that you want to destroy. And, Splinter Blast, when we talked about this here in the first place, still does a lot of damage because it does take some setup. And the fact that you're, still hitting them for even the 70% of a maxed out Splinter Blast, that's a decent chunk of damage. And, this is definitely still a hero that is a major threat, especially if you can get a Blink Dagger on it.
Mm-hmm. No, I think he definitely will find his way into the meta. I'm not sure at the pick rate exactly, but it'll be interesting to see if he does get picked up, what kind of lineups they want to run him in, and how effective that Winter's Curse really is when it comes down to it. So I'm definitely excited to see him in Captain's mode and see what he can do. Wraith King, I mentioned it with Huskar earlier, but they added an Aghanim Scepter upgrade to him, where allies who are near him within 1200 when slain become wraiths for 5 seconds, delaying their death. They can continue attacking, casting, etc. When the duration ends, the hero dies, and credit for the kill goes to whoever landed the original killing blow. They have a lot of typos in this, which is kind of astounding to me.
There are a lot of words, though. I'm really appreciating how many words there are.
That's a good point. I wouldn't want to be the editor for this either. But yeah, so essentially you have this Aghanims, you have your team around you. Let's say all your allies around you get nuked, and they all just die. I don't know what happened. They got hit. They're done.
Bad times.
However, you have this Aghanim, so they simply become a Wraith, and now for the next 5 seconds they can keep fighting, and it's delayed, so they're not going to die immediately. They will eventually. Now, of course, I did watch a video, and I think it's a bug, but right now, apparently, if you have a Dazzle on your team and someone becomes a Wraith, if you Shallow Grave them, they actually stay alive at the end of the duration. Seems like a bug to me.
Probably.
Not going to lie. But anyways, do you think this is something now? Is this once again another support Oghanims upgrade, or is this something you might see on the real deal?
Weighted diss supports, Jay.
I do. I'm sorry. That was rude.
I mean, it's obviously a very powerful ability because you're talking about 20 extra seconds of fight time across your team if you can make that happen somehow. I think it's really strong. I don't know how you could maybe make it work if you are like doing a support like your 4, you're doing your Blink Dagger. If you go for something to help you farm a little faster, maybe even your Maelstrom. If you're not forced into a Blade Mail.
He really likes the stats too, though.
True.
He likes mana. He likes health. He likes the strength and the int. I mean, I think this is definitely falls in line with him too. So
maybe you can say you swap out the Blade Mail, and that's what you go. You just get the tank ability. I sure, and I think that's opens up a lot of doors. Not even for just the gimmick of like a Huskar, but just these heroes that are capable of doing so much damage. I mean, even think of like a Drow Ranger or something. If you can keep her alive, move her away from the enemy team, even just the extra couple seconds of right clicks could be pretty massive. Or imagine a Bristleback who's able to get a lot of stacks on the enemy team, then gets taken down, but is continuing to pump out the spikes. I mean, there's a lot of potential here. What about Legion Commander with the Octave Scepter? That's kind of funny. I wonder how that works. Not that those two would be on a team together, but
do they win the duel or lose the duel?
Yeah, I wonder how that works.
I would hope they lose the duel, but I guess I don't know.
World may never know. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, all of these, I think, none of these we've looked at. There are some in the past where we've gone through patches and we've looked at Ogham Scepters and we go like, yeah, probably not.
Right.
I would say most of these, and especially when you're looking at, what can we swap out? It really is a lot about the choice and the situation for a lot of these. So I don't think that there are any of them.
God, we're giving people more choices. Oh no! Can't play with our friends. No, just kidding.
Oh. Last, but certainly not least.
Yes. Go ahead. Take it away.
Thunder God's Wrath. Area vision reduced from 1,000 to 500. Fixed Thunder God's Wrath, sometimes hitting invis units, depending on the order of player slots.
Okay. Thanks for that update. So really, obviously, you should focus on the area vision reduced, because that's a big deal. Cutting it in half. Obviously, Zeus being used so much these days to scout out wards and different things with just his bolt. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Thunder God's Wrath.
It is.
Okay, it's been a long day.
It has been a long day.
But we're not done. We're not done. We're not done. So, obviously, that's his ultimate, obviously. And the area vision reduced by half. So, obviously, God, I'm going to stop saying that word. So, it's making it...
the obvious dimensionality of it
just let me keep going. Maybe you shouldn't. It's going to allow you still to see where the enemy team is, which ultimately is what you're looking for with that vision, but it's not going to be as dramatic. It's not going to be as much vision at the end of the day. So not a huge nerf. I thought when I first read that, I thought it was the lightning bolt, so now I'm not as disappointed about it. But yeah, I mean, do you really, are you devastated, crushed?
No, and I like that it sort of gives invis heroes a little bit more wiggle room potentially. I mean, it sounds just like a bug fix, but whatever. Yeah.
Are we alive?
I feel like it started weak, it ended weak. Everything in the middle was pretty amazing. Zeus obviously is a very prevalent hero, so I like that they just scale it back a little bit to not break him. Because I still like him, to be honest. I still like seeing him. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so if you tuned in like, I don't know, an hour ago, like 2/3 of the way through, we are breaking this down into 3 separate sections. We are actually going to take a break. We are going to contemplate our lives and all of our decision making up to this point. Probably grab some drinks too, and then come back and go through the items that were released in 6.84. I mean, I think this might even be like the most crazy part of the whole thing.
Build that
I'm
suspense,
also,
BDL up.
yeah, I'm sorry too. I very rarely do this, but we started at 6 o'clock. Is now 9:45, and we're gonna keep going because we love you guys. We love talking about this stuff. We love Dota. There is a donate to the PayPal on DotaOnDemand.com. So I'm just gonna say Merlini's video was like 20 minutes long, and we are giving you content. So you're welcome to drop by, send us some love letters on Facebook if you like, or go ahead and hit that PayPal donation. I'll totally remind you at the beginning of the third video too. But we are going to take a quick break, and then we are going to come right back for the item discussion portion. Don't go anywhere. We will see you in a couple minutes.